landfill site. And now to fill us in on some more information about that, we have the director of the Department of Environmental Health for the Cayman Islands, Mr. Richard Sims, is doing a presentation here. So thank you, one Richard, and welcome to the next Richard.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Well, I said I wasn't going to be as long as everybody else, but you know, it's hard to cram so much information in 10 minutes, right? So my presentation might be a little longer than 10 minutes, but I think it's worthy of the time for you to get as much information as we can possibly share with you. Good. So I like the topic that we have, you know, rethinking waste, and it's something that it's, you know, been in our minds in the Department of Environmental Health in terms of all our team members, looking at constant ways of how we can actually handle and manage our waste, right? And so the question we ask is, can we really do this? Can we you know, make improvements in every way, shape or form in terms of managing and handling our waste? And absolutely, the question is, yes, it's possible we can do it, right? The Department of Environmental Health, we collect anywhere between 110 to 120 tons of waste per year, which equates to about 200 loads per day, or one load every 3 minutes. And literally, if you were to come to the landfill and stand up by the scale house and put your stopwatch on, you'll see that it really, every 3 minutes, there's a truck coming in with, whether it be, you know, regular waste from green waste and all these different types of stuff. So every 3 minutes we have something coming in there, and that's why it's important. As Richard mentioned already, I won't talk too much about the new facilities because he's done a good job with covering that. But you know, from seeing the amount of waste that we manage daily, and the landfill is constantly growing, you know, there had to be something to be done about that, to find different ways of treating and managing our waste. So we do recycling, and those are the things that we try to use to reduce the volume of things going into the landfill every day. So we have a recycling program. So what do we recycle? Recycle plastics, containers 1 and 2, or PET or HDPE. We would like to expand that sometime, but the problem is the market in which that we are able to deliver those recyclables to, because you know, as you might know, we have recyclable up to 3, 4, 5, up to 7, right? But for now, we only have the market to recycle 1 and 2. We also recycle metal cans, steel and aluminum cans, glass and bottle jars, papers and cardboards, as well as household batteries, lead acid and car batteries as well, and motor oil and cooking oil are dropped off to the landfill, and we arrange packaging and shipping of all these items. So where do we recycle? We have our recycling depots in West Bay, the Foster's Republic, 7 Mile Beach, Cayman Bay, Georgetown at Foster's Airport, Kirk Market, Prospect and Red Bay, Barcam Service Station. We also have a depot in Bordentown, Savannah, at the Foster Countryside, and we also have the Craddock Ebanks Civic Center in Northside. And the recent one, the last one that we've put in operation is the one that is located in East End, near Captain George Dixon Park. So we handle a lot of derelict vehicles in our operation daily, and we average about anywhere from 100 to 130 derelict vehicles per month that we take off our streets, well, believe it or not. You know, because we realize there's a lot of derelict vehicles all over the place. A lot of people don't even know what to do with their vehicles at the end of its life. So we're trying to ensure that the public are aware and educate them mostly as to what they need to do when the vehicle comes to the end of its useful life. So recycled materials are packaged, baled, and shipped off island. You know, as Richard also mentioned earlier, when it comes to recycling, unfortunately, there's not a lot of recycling that's done on island. We just package and ship it off island for reuse and so on. So we don't have a, you know, so what some people in their minds think, where we would have this recyclable program that includes turning in our recyclables into other products, right? That doesn't really happen here in on Grand Cayman. We ship everything off. So you know, we have our big, hairy, audacious goals. You know, we try to set goals for ourselves to see how and where we can take our business. Um, we want to see this island beautiful just like everybody else, right? The beautification of the Georgetown landfill. Hence, you know, Richard already covered most of that, the plans in relation to how would the landfill will be developed and turned into a green space and all these things, right? Um, a single DH facility, we want to make sure we're looking at having one single DH facility. We want to be the employer of choice. We want people to, when they see all these wonderful things that's happening surrounding the Department of Environmental Health, they want to be a part of it, want to join our team and make their respective contributions. We're constantly looking at ways to improve efficiency in our operation delivery. You know, we learn from things. What don't go well for us, we learn and adjust accordingly, and what works well, we keep it, right? We look at bettering our fuel delivery systems, improve on our recycling programs. And as I just mentioned, when it comes to our recycling, one of the things I would like to see us improve on is in terms of finding markets where we can actually get people to take from plastic 3 to 7 from us, instead of, you know, because those right now, unfortunately, are still being landfilled, and simply because we just don't have anyone out there to take that from us. I mean, you probably will recall sometime, maybe 4 years ago, China used to collect a lot of plastics from all over the world, and they have since put a halt to all that, saying pretty much, hey, you know what, we don't want any more of the the world's waste. So hence the reason why, you know, there's been a lot of reduction in terms of the type plastics that have been out there for recycling. So our goal is to have a zero litter island, where everybody plays a role and understand the importance of treating their waste well, keeping the island clean. You know, because as you know, this is a tourist destination, and one of the things and comments we always get from our tourists and visitors is that this is one of the cleanest places they've ever been to. So we want to maintain that and continue to make improvements on that. So there are different form of littering and illegal dumping that goes on from individuals that are conducting littering to your small domestic and small business guys who carry out their operations and conduct illegal dumping. For example, sometimes you find these gardening services who, because of the distance they have to drive, once they clean a yard and taking away green waste, they'll find some site and or some clear property that belongs to somebody and illegally dump their waste. Yeah, as well as we have those big, large scales illegal dumping that goes on. So, but we have our laws that, I mean, I think even though it can be strengthened, the laws currently are sufficient for us to continue to take positive actions and enforcement and enforcing the litter law as well, which is 1997 ReGen, right? So from a lot of these illegal dumping sites, what we've been looking at is what are people wasting? What are they disposing of? And what we found is, you know, in regards to the illegal dumping, you have about 13% of those are cars, car bodies, parts and all these different things, right? 8% is soil, 15% green waste, from probably gardening. So people clean up their yards and don't want to go all the way to the landfill, so they find a spot and dump that. And asbestos about 1%, construction and demolition 12%, tires about 6%, household rubbish about 24%, household furnitures about 12%, and household goods 8%, and hazardous waste is about 1%. All right. When it comes to the litter side of things, you find, and most of you who will visit the beaches, and sometimes you'll see this, where you have a lot of cigarette butts and all these different things all over the place. So, we find that about 54% of that is being discarded as litter, and small containers about 29%, 6% in paper, and 11% of other mixed stuff, right? So the form of litter that we find is, you see the picture there, we find things like this across there, and you'd be surprised at some of the places that we go into. And we have a team of environmental health officers that go into every single street, right? And now I can tell you I'm properly resourced now. So we'll be doing a lot more enforcement in this regard. And there are times when people would say, oh, you see all of this litter here, illegal dumping going on. Why don't you prosecute somebody for it? Easier said than done, right? Because what the challenge is when you see, we come up to a site looking like this, for example, there's no markings to say who these things belong to, right? So the times that we get lucky though, where we would say, okay, we're going to sift through this thing, and we will find a name, an address on something, because something that came in shipping, there might be a shipping package that came in, they took out the stuff and forget to tear their name off. So we can find persons in that, and then we trace them and prosecute where necessary, right? Because they would have to explain how come their product, their name is on this thing in this pile here. So we can prosecute in that respect. Because there are times when people, they're not necessarily the ones that actually did the litter. They hire these companies to come remove things from their properties, and then they try to, trying to get to the next buck quickly, discard these things illegally, and then off to the next job, right? So we find incidents there, but at least we have an area where we can concentrate on to conduct prosecution. So you'd go into some neighborhoods and you'd see some homes looking like this, right? And these are the kind of things our environmental health officers will be focusing on to ensure that persons manage their enclosures properly. And I can tell you, up to this morning, with the new team that's just started, they sent me a bunch of reports already, and I had to sign off on a few abatement notices this morning, so that we can address homeowners with these things, so that people can have a sense of responsibility for keeping their space, their personal homes, and their neighborhoods clean. Another form of litter is roadkills. I have a team of biohazard officers who their job is to really drive around the streets, and if they see people who run over like chickens or iguanas and other things, to actually take care of those things, and then deceased animals, that's their job. So if there anyone of the public that's out there, that when they come across this thing, just give us a call, and we'll come by and collect any deceased animal that you come across. So this is just a few pictures of our operation, where whenever we stick our vehicle and label it as derelict, and to remove it off the streets, we have our solid waste team will go out with the truck and collect them for removal. So what are some of our plans? All right, and the thing is, we have to have a plan in order to get people to understand and how to go about managing their waste, right? So we came up with a vision, a mission, and guiding principles and objectives, right? So our vision is to have a well-maintained community, have well-maintained communities, vibrant without litter or garbage evident anywhere in sight. That's our goal. We want to be able to, when you go down the streets of any street in the Cayman Islands, whether public or private, is to just see cleanliness everywhere, right? We want to have our children run free to explore areas throughout the island where there are no concern for any harmful items lying around that might threaten their safety, pride in our well-kept communities, unless we happen to come upon areas where it's being collected for the day. We only want to see what are we going to put out for the day for collection. It's collection day, and that's what we want to see on your streets, right? And our tourists can continue to appreciate the cleanliness of our island. Our mission, the DEH is a primary facilitator or zero litter Cayman plan as part of our obligation as the department that manages solid waste to protect both environment and public health. We will work with key agencies, including Department of Environment, the Water Authority, Department of Public Works, the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, the Plan Department, to remove litter and illegal dumping related hazards all over the island. So objective one will reflect the value of the interests of each major community plans within the plan, create community systems of feedback and manage reflect specific community culture. This is where now we'll have our environmental health officers going into each community, because what I've tasked them to do, we need to be a part of the community where we go in, so they will recognize us, they know us, and we can work together and create neighborhood programs, award programs we can work with. And I'm sure Plastic Free Cayman, who's made a presentation earlier, I mean, we want you to reach out to our officers who, see what we can do together as a community. They've just recently formed the beautification task force, who will be working with closely as well. They've already been doing a good job. I know in East End and North Side beautification committee, so we'll be working along alongside those organizations to continue to enhance their respective neighborhoods. Our next strategy is to engage the community and build open and existing litter cleanup effort through support and education, the provision of resources. Continue the zero litter committee and community subcommittee framework during the program implementation, volunteer community cleanups events. Wherever there's volunteer organizations are brewing, we want to be there. We want to be a part of it. Their efforts, and so we're going to be working in tandem with those organizations. Like I said earlier, I'm much more resourced now. I just had a team of environmental health officers just started last week. So we'll be able to you'll be seeing a lot more environmental health personnel within your communities. The next plan that we have is next strategy is to provide an exceptional waste collection system that ensures waste is fully containerized and removed from the curbside. Now, we've just completed a tender exercise for containers. One of the plan is to roll out a test program, a pilot program, and where we will be providing the bins to you. So people have no excuse in terms of how they can package and get their waste ready for us or collection. Right. So we should be rolling that out in a few I'll say a few months once the containers arrive on island. So that is just around the corner. Hopefully before the end of this year, we can actually roll out the pilot program for that. So we will continue to review waste storage and our collection systems, how we go about doing that. We think waste collection systems, containerizations, because we want things to be covered properly to prevent rodents and chickens and all these different things to get into people's waste and dig it out and cause all sort of infestation problems, right? So yard and garden waste debris curbside collection, that is something that we're going to be looking at, because currently now you have to deliver your own your yard and garden waste to the landfill, right? So to prevent a lot of the illegal dumping, that is something that we have to look at then, okay, how do we prevent people from doing that? We now have to, okay, say, look at how we can then enhance our collections by simply offering the service of, well, we'll come get it, rather than you trying to dispose of it and in doing so, doing it illegally. Our next strategy is to train enforcement officers to support the zero litter initiative with an even-handed approach to enforcement existing legislation. There room for developing our legislations, like I said, but the ones that we have in place now, we can continue to do a lot with it, especially from the litter law and the public health law, right? Develop guidelines for enforcement. So develop garbage loss and farm programs. There are times when people would throw things by mistake, or, you know, as Richard alluded to earlier, we will have a facility where you can reuse stuff. So things that don't necessarily need to end up in the landfill, there'll be a facility in the new ReGen to where you can just drop off stuff and say, look, I don't have any more use for this nice sofa. I'm changing out to a newer one, but it still can be reused instead of dumping it. You can take it to the landfill and it can be reused by someone else. The strategic number 5, to put a legal framework that allows regulators to enforce the rules surrounding proper waste management when necessary. So we plan to review our current legislative tools to address litter, such as developing derelict vehicle regulations, because currently we have no derelict vehicle regulations, but that is something that we need to develop and so that people can have a better understanding and idea how to deal with their vehicles when it comes to its end of life. We're going to look at developing regulations for covered loads, because those are the kind of things too that can prevent some littering, because, you know, there are people who will be moving debris from one location to the next, or on their way to the landfill, and stuff get blown off and onto our roads. So that's some of the things that we want to put in place to prevent that from happening, right? So regulation will actually deal with that. And dispose refund system for returnable bottles. That is something I know when I was a child. It used to happen here in Cayman, where you could take a bottle to the store and you get like 5 cents or something like that for it. Something that, you know, we can probably look at reintroducing and incentivize persons to recycle by offering those incentives, right? And number 6, the CIG will try to model the behavior we are requesting in our communities. For example, develop DEH brand for zero litter, conduct annual operation review, the government solid waste management practice, and identify behaviors inconsistent with the intent of this review. So we want to continue to review our processes, see how effective and efficient we are. Strategy number 7, track and record progress while promoting success of the plan out to the communities and the Department of Tourism to engage more tourism. Develop and tracking report systems for all litter removed. For example, this is where, when we go into neighborhoods and we find that litters are being placed in different areas, we'll just map it out. See where this will tell us where the problem areas are, where we need to focus on in terms of signage, enforcements. You know, if, for example, we need to install cameras, all these different things, because since we are having problems with tracking and tracing persons for prosecution, then we will look at places where hotspots, for example, where people dispose of waste illegally, put put up camera systems surrounding that so we can actually be in a better position to prosecute. And strategy number 8, identify and respond to the primary problems across areas across the nation in a systematic way. Develop a database, as I just alluded to, a database of common illegal dumping sites, and conduct operational reviews to address those. And strategy number 9, identify and engage community members to stop littering and illegal dumping. And this is done through education. We have to educate our public constantly. And if we have all these different organizations that are out there speaking to illegal dumping, littering, and all these things, I'm sure we'll get somewhere. And we will look at creating hotlines for reporting, because some people want to report, but they don't want to do official reporting. Because as is now, if somebody was to see, we want to prosecute, let's say we want to prosecute somebody and somebody saw you, we'd have to get a written statement from those persons saying that they actually saw you, and they will need to be willing to go to court to testify to that effect. No, not everybody wants to do that, right? So we would like to create hotlines where people can actually call in and say they've seen vehicle 1, 2, 3, 4, Toyota RAV4 illegally dumping in this area, and we will actually get on that and proceed with prosecutions. So a good surveillance system would certainly enhance our enforcement. All right, and I'll leave it right there, because then we can, based on everybody that's spoken already, we know we can go on all day talking about waste. Any questions?
Thank you very, very much, Richard, for that comprehensive presentation. We do have some questions here. What happens to the general waste that is dumped into the recycling bins?
Well, once the general waste is dumped into the recycling bin, every time those things are taken to the recycling center, we have a team of people, recycling processors. They put these things on a conveyor belt and they separate all of those things. Whatever is recyclable goes into the bale. Whatever is non-recyclable, they separate those and it goes into the landfill. Right, so there's a team of people, they're dedicated, that's their sole job, is to separate all the recyclables. Even with what we find that we're looking for plastic 1 and 2, and they have a keen eye for these things. And sometimes you'll find people put in, because it's plastic, they just put it in the recyclable bin, but it's not recyclable for us. So our team would go in and hand pick those out. They hand pick those out every day, all day long.
Okay, and is DEH, is there any talk about trying to limit how other plastics come in to Cayman besides the ones that we can recycle, like 5 and 7, or is there a thought of
I mean,
stopping that from entering the island in some way?
Yeah, the thing is, as I can't remember the lady now who mentioned earlier about the plastic-free presentation.
Claire
spoke about Claire, yeah. Spoke about the committee. I'm part of the committee as well, in terms of looking at what we should ban, what type of plastic we should ban with single-use plastic. But as a person also responsible for food safety in this country, right? It's not as easy decision to come to when it comes to single plastic. Some yes, because you have to look at. Remember now, as you mentioned earlier, everything is imported in this country, all our food, and it has to be packaged certain way and shipped. It has to come in certain temperatures. So when you talk about single plastic, there are certain foods or meats or products that are wrapped and they're wrapped in plastic for safety and transportation, right? So all of those things has to be considered, and so you got to look at the operations of restaurants, certain restaurants like the fast food restaurants and other different restaurants, how they operate. Okay, so if you say we're going to ban 3, 4, and 5 and all of those rest, then what effects it will have on those businesses, right? And so on. So they have to look at their suppliers. So they have to look at, okay, where I normally get this stuff that is packaged this way, or you have to tell your supplier, you can no longer send this type of stuff to me. And some suppliers will say, well, okay, well, I won't do business with you anymore, because for me to stop my chain, to give you specifically, maybe because, you know, we're looking at a population of 60,000 people. If I'm going to start my line to give you maybe 100 of my product or whatever it is, it may not make financial sense for me. So, you know, but we still,
But why
I
have
think,
other countries been able to achieve it and we, I mean, is Cayman, we're just incapable of doing it, or other countries right in the region? Jamaica has banned single use. I mean, Claire talked about the Bahamas. So we just can't do it, or we
I'm not
care
saying we
more
can't.
about the people profiting from the businesses than about restricting single use plastics.
No, it's not about profit. It's not about profit only. No, you got to look at, okay, if they're saying it's not profitable for me, then it's goods that we require and need, right? So you have to balance. It's not that we can't do it. Jamaica knows spaces. There's certain things in Jamaica, for example, they produce. We don't produce everything. We import everything, right? So we have to take all those things in consideration. Not to say that we can't do it. And don't get me wrong. I don't want you to think that I'm not supporting the single-use plastic, because I do. But it just, those are the things we have to think about, the pros and cons in doing it. And when we make a decision to say, okay, all right, we're going to now ban this, we'll be okay in terms of our habits will have to be changed, the way how we, you know, so you have to take all those into perspective. You can't just say, okay, as of tomorrow we're going to know. So you have to look at everything, see how it's going to be done, then you go, okay, now we're ready, let's do it.
Okay. And then another question here, citing the Earth Day cleanups from earlier this year. Is the DEH open to placing collection bins and garbage bins in areas where fly tipping is very common? For example, next to Bodden Town Cemetery. We had this same thing out here in Barker's. I was just at Barker's on Saturday, and people had cleaned up a bunch of bottles and plastics and things, and then just basically had to leave it there because there's no bins to deal with it. So when people are trying to do the right thing, they can't dispose of it. So the chickens get to it and the dogs get to it and everything like that. Is that a program that you're looking into, as far as having places where people can dispose of things, as opposed to just finding people or prosecuting people for doing it, when people are trying to do the right thing, that they have a place to actually throw things out or recycle them at places where garbage is common, cleanups are common?
I can tell you that won't be something that I'll be looking at any longer, because I tell you why. We tried that in East End and Bodden Town, and we saw it's a nightmare, right? It becomes like, once you start to put those bins in neighborhoods and in areas, it will become like a mini dump site. People won't respect the fact that the bins are full and walk away, right? They will just continue pouring stuff and it spills over. Then I have to send a team of people and a team of trucks to go and clean it up. And after seeing that, for some, I'm like, you know, this, it may sound good. It sounds good that you think it will prevent a problem. But when you actually put that in play and you see the nightmare that it causes, you're like, hold on, this doesn't make any sense. You're trying to help a situation, but it's more harmful than helpful. Right. And so if people were to where would it work if people were to respect the fact that, listen, I see a bin, it's full, let me keep my stuff until they empty this one, and because nobody wants to take it back home. The thing is, they're looking at it as, I've come this far and I've take the time and effort to come this far. Now I'm not carrying it back home. So it just piles up. And in no time, we have to send a crew of people out there to clean it up. And it makes the neighborhood looks terrible, because that's what the next complaint would be. Because I've had it where people say, look, you guys are not emptying this thing, and we've just did it yesterday. But you know, within a day or so, it's full, because everybody sees it as somewhere to just go and, you know, and empty and all their stuff from their house all at once.
Okay, I mean, I think I would just point to the need for more capacity or more frequent pickups. I mean, like Barker's hasn't stopped, right? People still dump there, and beach cleanups happen from garbage that's not locally produced. So but when you do a beach cleanup there, I've done it myself. I've carried a bag full of trash from Barker's and walked it back to my house, because we walked down there and ended up cleaning up a whole bunch of stuff. So it seems like some way to deal with it would be good. You talked about cameras being installed. I know there's one up here actually that can see everyone who enters into Barker's. When will that be happening, that there'll be cameras near the most consistent illegal dumping sites?
The thing is, I've had conversation with the director of 911, those people who manage the cameras, to see, because those are best. We already have cameras out there,
right?
And if we can find a way to link into those cameras, or you know, they give us access, that will help, you know. So rather than, because to create, if I can tell you, you know how government operates, I want something now, and say I have this big grandiose plan to put cameras everywhere, there's going to be a budget implication in this. You have to apply for that it goes, that will take at least a year or two at the minimum, right, to get those in play. But what I'm looking at is what's out there now that we can use, that we can tap into, and that and those cameras are everywhere, right? We just probably need one other one to point in a direction where we're having those problems. For example, that I mentioned, those hotspots. We say, okay, then we're having problems here, we're having problems there. Let's now see if we can get a camera pitch in that direction to help us. Right.
Absolutely. And then we're going to be taking more questions, and that can be posted on the site, and we'll be able to get in touch with you and the relevant agencies. One thing here about the government encouraging and supporting eco-friendly local businesses so that there is less, really harsh waste going on. So is DEH involved in trying to encourage that at all, so that there's less waste created in the first place?
Sorry, I missed that. I missed what.
As far as working with eco-friendly local businesses to encourage better waste practices and discouraging single-use packaging, single-use plastic packaging, or styrofoam packaging.
Yeah, I mean that's that's part of the discussions the committee have been having. You know, the single-use plastic committee. The businesses are a part of that. Some of the major businesses like Foresters and all of those guys, they're part of the group as well. So we've been having those discussions with them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Richard. And like I said, we can pose more questions through the website and then get in touch with the relevant agencies as needed. And good to see some really, that we're progressing along and how to address this waste issue. I know that construction waste as well in residential neighborhoods is a big problem, from the lunch boxes to just stuff blowing off the site and everything like that. I think it would be good to address, because when people are building homes and doing construction in residential areas, I actually contacted planning about this myself, because it's been a huge issue up where I live. It is not required to have a waste bin on a construction site that is residential, only on larger scale sites. So I think that is one thing that could be dealt with right away that would really help a lot of people in neighborhoods be happy. Just require that construction sites, no matter how big or small, have a place to dispose of their waste properly, dispose of their lunch kits, and stop burning plastic in their burn piles and all that type of stuff, because we see it happening all the time. So I think that would be a win, create a real easy win-win right there.
Yeah, that is something I can
comment on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I make one comment
sure,
on that?
Sure, yeah.
So I 100% agree with you on that, just for obviously the domestic waste coming out of construction sites. But I think a step further that is being considered is actually looking at, through the planning process, construction waste management plans for the development of sites and buildings and things like that. So actually, during the construction or demolition process, appropriate containerizations on site. So rubble gets put into one skip, metal gets put into another skip, timber into another, et cetera, et cetera. So at the front end of the process, it's actually been managed appropriately as part of the actual development, to make sure that we're really maximizing the opportunity to divert those materials to the right infrastructure.
Absolutely. These are just homes getting built you know, in neighborhoods. So, I mean, that I just want to see styrofoam containers and cans and stuff stop blowing around my beautiful neighborhood. It really baffled me to learn from planning that you're not required to have a garbage can until you actually move into the house to throw away your waste. But the construction guys can just throw it wherever they desire, it seems like. We are going to get in.
But you know, just one thing, that is not. I mean, I can have my team address those things, you know, because we can look at it as nuisance, and address those sides. So, you know,
that would be great.
Even though, yeah, because we do from time to time, once we get a complaint about these construction site, visit and deal with those issues. So all is not lost. We just need to know.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Richard. And